Camp Safety Volunteer Training, Part 2 of 3. We ask that at camp you use the buddy system. This is both for the safety of the campers as well as for the safety of you. You should never be alone with a camper. This can cause problems for you in the case of he said, she said, especially with sexual harassment. If you need to escort a camper somewhere, for example, if a camper gets injured, you should ask for another camper to go with you, so it's you plus 2 campers. Campers should never be alone. If they need to go somewhere, for example, if they need to go to the restroom, always send at least one buddy with them. It can be a group of 2, it can be a group of 3, but there should never be one camper going somewhere by themselves. The counselor or adult in charge should always know where these campers are going if they leave an activity. If a camper is not accounted for or you expected them back already, immediately contact your director or program director. Stranger danger. If you see someone unfamiliar on camp, make sure to stop them and ask them to check in with the director. It is very important that we know who is on camp at all times. If you're not sure if they've already checked in, go ahead and ask them. It's better to be sure than not. Never release campers to a parent. Directors have the release forms and know who's allowed to pick them up. We don't want a parent who doesn't have custody of the camper picking them up. Ask the parent to talk to a director before they come talk to you. Once the parent has checked in with the director will escort them to you. Don't take their word and just assume that they went and found the director and are now coming back. If you suspect that a stranger is on camp, note the license plate number and the vehicle description so that if a problem arises, we have a starting point. Never leave your campers unattended. Campers should be with adults at all times. The only exception to this is if campers are walking to the bathroom, or to the next activity, or grabbing something from the cabin. In this case, though, an adult should know where they're going, when to expect them back, and campers should have a buddy with them at all times. There should never be a camper walking by themselves. Counselors and program staff should be with the campers during all activities. Counselors should never leave campers alone at rest hour or at night, even if all the kids are asleep. There may be an emergency and a counselor needs to be there for that. If an emergency in your cabin occurs and you need to escort a camper and a buddy to get to the infirmary, you need to get coverage for your cabin, whether it is the counselor next door walking back and forth between you two, whether it is your director coming over and sitting with your cabin, your cabin needs to be covered. General safety on camp. Make sure your campers are eating. If you see a camper that's not eating, try to find out why. If it's because they don't like the food, try to find out if there's an alternative. Make sure campers are drinking plenty of water. Dehydration is the most common sickness at camp. Make sure you are following the guidelines for lights out. Campers need a lot of sleep to make sure they're having fun, staying healthy, and staying out of trouble. If the campers get tired, they're more likely to have bad behavior. All medications need to be turned in. This includes yours. Medication should be turned in to the healthcare staff so that it can be kept in a locked place and nobody else that's not supposed to have a medication can get into it. If a camper has medication in their bag in your cabin, turn it into the healthcare immediately. Some inhalers and EpiPens may be allowed to be kept with the campers after they've checked them in with healthcare. If one of your campers is carrying an inhaler or an EpiPen, it must remain with them or with you at all times. Money and cell phones should not be with your campers. They need to be turned into the camp store or left with parents. If you have a cell phone on one of your campers, please turn it into your director so that it can be returned at the end of the week. First aid on camp. If a child or yourself doesn't feel well, injures themselves, or is homesick, find the healthcare staff to get appropriate care. Healthcare staff can give kids over-the-counter medication for stomach aches, headaches, cough, rash, and allergies if permitted by their health form. Healthcare can also help with basic first aid needs such as band-aids, ice, scrapes, removing ticks, etc. Healthcare can talk to campers about homesickness, not feeling well, and work with the directors to make decisions about notifying the parents. Healthcare can contact the parent and make arrangements to get the camper more advanced care at urgent care or hospitals. Do not pre-diagnose the situation or promise a camper any specific care before getting to see healthcare. Body substances. Sometimes at camp we see or are coming in encounter with body substances. Body substances are any moist substance from the body, and these should all be considered potentially infected. Use good hand washing along with the body substance precautions for protection. The body substance precautions include wearing latex or vinyl gloves when anticipating contact with body substances, washing hands for 10 to 15 seconds immediately after, even when wearing gloves, putting soiled tissues, gloves, and disposable material in trash cans lined with a plastic bag or directly into a plastic bag. Paper towels can soak up spills and be picked up with the use of gloves and then disposed in the plastic bags. Areas should be then disinfected with a mop, and the mop head should be cleaned. You can ask camp staff for assistance when dealing with body substance precautions. Child abuse is a topic that we need to be very concerned about. As people of God, we are called to love, and that is central to our life as Christians. Responding to that call includes loving people, growing in love and knowledge of God, loving oneself, and caring for all of creation. There are 4 types of child abuse. There's physical abuse, neglect, sexual abuse, emotional maltreatment. Children can be abused by parents, other adults, siblings, older children, or others. Physical abuse is defined as non-accidental trauma or physical injury caused by punching, beating, kicking, biting, burning, or otherwise harming a child. Some things to look for signs of physical abuse are injuries that don't fit the explanation of what the child is giving you, frequent injuries such as injuries that are in various stages of healing, making it obvious they didn't occur in one instant. For example, if there's a fresh bruise and then somewhere else on their body there is a bruise that is starting to turn green and starting to disappear, and there's another one that is faint in there, that's injuries that are in various stages. Bruises, lacerations, and swollen areas and other marks can also be signs of physical abuse. Neglect is defined as the failure of the caregiver to provide needed, age-appropriate care. Physical neglect could be not providing necessities such as food, clothing, and shelter. Educational neglect is the failure to enroll the child in school or appropriate homeschooling. Emotional neglect is ignoring or rejecting. Medical neglect is failure to provide appropriate health care, thus placing them at risk of being disabled, disfigured, or dying. Sexual abuse can be defined as sexual touching of a child as well as non-touching offenses and sexual exploitation that is harmful to a child's well-being. Touching sexual offenses can include fondling, making a child touch an adult sexual organ, and penetration. Non-sexual touching can include indecent exposure, exposure to pornographic material, and exposure to sexual acts. Sexual exploitation can be engaging or soliciting a child for prostitution, using a child to film or model pornographic material. Emotional maltreatment is ignoring through no response, rejecting through active refusal of needs, verbally assaulting by belittling, shaming, or threatening, isolating a child from normal peer interactions, terrorizing by bullying or threatening to create a climate of fear, and exploiting a child to touch or force illegal and inappropriate behaviors. Reporting child abuse. If you suspect a child is being abused at camp or at home, report any suspicions to a director or program coordinator. Children of abuse may feel safe at camp and open up to counselors. If this occurs, never promise to keep it a secret, but let them know that you'll listen. Protecting yourself from child abuse claims. It is important that you understand child abuse and you are not neglecting the child or abusing them. It is also important to avoid claims that can come up. Use of the following steps can help. Again, never be alone with a camper. They can claim that you did things since there is nobody else there to verify that something happened or did not happen. Avoid too much touch, both in punishment and affection. There should be no physical punishment. There should be no spanking, no hitting, kicking as a punishment or in any regard. Again, in affection, a full frontal hug is a lot of touch that can be portrayed as something sexual. Therefore, side hugs where we can see both the fronts of both people are better than full frontal hugs. Never call a camper names like stupid or good for nothing, no matter how frustrated. It will tear at their self-esteem and is therefore a type of abuse. Address poor behavior of campers through discussion or loss of activities, and never neglect child to food or sleep. If you are losing control or frustrated that you feel yourself getting angry, step away from the situation and ask for help. Report all injuries or incidents to healthcare immediately so that they can be properly documented. And never discuss personal information with campers, especially relationships, sexual preferences, and others. Emergency procedures on camp to be aware of. There are tornado shelters on camp. That would be the pool house bathrooms, the sunrise room, the nature center, and the supply room on the bottom of the meeting house. AEDs are located in front of the infirmary by the Gaga pit as well as in Badcock Lodge. If you see lightning or hear thunder, you need to get under shelter and stay there for 20 minutes past the last strike unless otherwise directed by camp staff. If medical emergency, please let your director or the camp staff know. If it's after hours, go to the infirmary radio, identify yourself and the concern, and help will be with you. You have now completed the camp safety training video. This is video 2 of 3. Please complete the camp safety videos quiz to document your completion of the training. Once you have completed the quiz, continue to the counselor basics video for part 3.